Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're looking at something that's been in the news a lot lately, artificial intelligence, AI.
Mm.
Specifically, what makes certain companies really thrive in this AI-powered world,
Hmm.
while others are kind of struggling to keep up.
Hmm.
We've got some really interesting excerpts here to dig into. One's called "In the Age of AI, Companies Are Dividing into Haves and Have-Nots." And the other is generative AI-powered businesses.
Hmm.
And the thing is, it's not as easy as just like, oh, we have AI. We're good.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's almost like this idea of weaving AI into the very DNA of how a company works.
Right.
And what's really interesting is that the first article points out that only 10% of companies
Uh-huh.
have actually been successful in scaling AI and really making it work for them.
10%. That's a way smaller number than I would thought.
Right.
I mean, you would think with all the, hype and the talk about AI, there would be way more companies who'd figure this out by now. And it's not even that, employees are like resisting AI or anything like that. That same article says like 70% of workers are actually excited to use AI in their jobs.
Yeah.
So what's the disconnect? Like, why are so few companies actually succeeding with this?
Well, I think the challenge really emerges when companies try to move beyond just like individual use of AI, like, one person using it for a specific task.
Yeah,
It's when they try to redesign, whole systems and processes,
right.
with AI really being at the center of it all. That's when you start to see anxieties creep in about, is my job secure? What does this all mean for the future?
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would make people a little uneasy. Change is always a little bit scary.
Mm.
But the good news is these articles, they don't just point out the problem. They actually offer like a pretty practical roadmap to success.
Right.
And it really boils down to like three core differences in how these AI-powered companies are operating.
Yeah, and that first difference is how they're really thinking about integrating AI into their strategic priorities.
Mhm.
So, it's not just about like randomly applying AI everywhere.
Right.
It's being really strategic and targeted about where AI can actually give them a competitive edge.
Yeah, they're thinking about like how can AI help us solve, real customer problems
Hmm.
and deliver something unique in the market. Like there's an example in the article about a consumer goods company that actually decided to speed up some of their like efficiency measures
Yeah.
just so they can free up funds to invest in AI.
Wow, that's a bold move.
Yeah. It's like they were serious about this.
But it's also a signal, right? It shows that they're committed to AI-driven growth.
Absolutely. It's not just about cutting costs.
Right.
It's about investing in the future.
Hmm.
And what's interesting, too, is that this approach actually helped employees view AI more positively.
Interesting.
They saw it as a tool for creating new opportunities,
Hmm.
adding value, not just replacing their job.
Totally. It becomes a tool for empowerment, you know?
Yes.
Not replacement. And I think that leads us perfectly into that second key difference,
Okay.
which is how these successful AI companies are really good at breaking down those traditional silos
Right.
and getting employees actively involved in, developing these AI solutions.
Yeah, they get that AI implementation can't just be like a top-down
Yeah.
initiative.
Hmm.
You need people from across the organization, business, finance, operations, everybody
Really.
working together and sharing their expertise.
And it's about, building a shared understanding and a
Mhm.
sense of ownership around AI. And one way that these companies are doing that is by forming these small agile teams. The article actually refers to them as like two pizza teams.
Two pizza teams. I love that.
Small enough to be fed with just two pizzas.
Yeah. It's all about having those like really focused groups
Right.
that can move quickly and experiment and get things done
Mm.
without getting bogged down in bureaucracy. And there's this great example of an airline that did exactly that.
Oh.
They pulled people from different departments,
Yeah.
put them on these small teams, and their whole goal was to like reimagine processes through an AI lens.
I bet the results were pretty impressive.
They were. Not only did the teams come up with some really innovative solutions,
Hmm.
but the airline also had this whole plan in place to like quickly spread those learnings throughout the organization.
Smart.
So it wouldn't just be limited to those small groups. They wanted to create like a company-wide transformation.
Yeah, that's key, isn't it? It's not just about these like isolated pockets of innovation. It's about, creating a system for scaling those successes and really changing the company's DNA.
Yeah.
And, one of the most valuable resources in that whole process is the frontline employee.
Oh, absolutely. The people who are closest to the customers and the data,
Exactly.
they have those on-the-ground insights that, AI strategists might miss.
right? They understand the customer needs, the data nuances, the day-to-day realities of the business, and involving them in the process not only leads to better solutions,
Right.
but it also like fosters this sense of ownership and excitement around AI.
It makes AI feel less like a threat and more like a collaborative tool.
Exactly.
Like you're building a talent pipeline for the AI-powered future,
Absolutely.
right, from within. So we've talked about strategic AI integration
Mm-hmm.
and the power of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to tackle that third key difference.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on. This one might be my favorite. It's about using AI to enhance experiences,
Okay.
not just to improve efficiency.
And I think this is where things get really interesting for employees, right?
Right.
I mean, while efficiency is important, it's not exactly inspiring.
Hmm.
People are way more likely to embrace AI when they see how it can directly improve their work experience or benefit the customer.
Yeah, it speaks to that human element
Yeah.
of AI adoption. It's not just about, cold, hard numbers. It's about making things better for the people who are actually involved.
Finding that sweet spot where AI can make work, more enjoyable, more fulfilling, more meaningful.
Exactly. And one of the best examples of this actually comes from a convenience store chain that implemented an AI-powered scheduling solution. And this one wasn't just about optimizing shifts to make things more efficient,
Right.
It actually gave employees more control over their schedules.
Okay.
So they could choose hours and shift that really worked for their lives.
So it's like instead of AI dictating their lives,
Yeah.
it actually gave them more flexibility and autonomy.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
And what's really interesting is think about the ripple effect of that. Happier employees means lower turnover,
Mm-hmm.
which means that the company can roll out new things more efficiently. In fact, this article says that they were able to implement this AI scheduling solution nationwide in just 6 months.
Wow.
Previous rollouts had taken them, upwards of 2 years
Yeah.
because of all the complexities of, managing change and everything. Right.
This time everyone was on board.
That's a perfect example of how focusing on that human element can actually accelerate AI adoption.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about forcing change, it's about making change something that people want.
Yeah. It makes me think about that statistic we talked about earlier, where over 90% of workers who had used AI in like 5 or more different use cases were actually excited about AI's potential.
It's like the more positive experiences people have with AI, the more they see it as a tool for good.
Mm-hmm.
And, companies like L'Oreal are really embracing this idea. They're using AI for everything, from customer-facing applications like their virtual beauty assistant
Yeah.
to internal processes like content creation. It's like AI is everywhere.
Yeah, it's about seeing AI not as like a replacement,
Mm-hmm.
but as a way to like amplify
Yes.
human ingenuity,
Mm-hmm.
take what we do best and make it even better. It's funny how all three of these differences we've talked about today, strategic AI, use breaking down silos, focusing on experience.
Yeah.
It really all comes down to understanding and respecting the human element.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Successful AI implementation isn't just about the technology.
Right.
It's about how you integrate that technology into the human ecosystem of a company.
Mm-hmm.
It's remembering that AI is a tool, and like any tool,
Yeah.
it needs a skilled and thoughtful hand guiding it.
And a clear vision of what you want to achieve with it.
Exactly.
Companies that are thriving, in this age of AI aren't just chasing the latest shiny object.
Right.
They're using it intentionally
Mm-hmm.
to solve real problems,
Mhm.
create real value.
And they're doing it in a way that empowers their employees
Yeah.
and enhances that overall experience for everyone involved.
Right. It's about understanding that AI is really meant to augment human capabilities,
Yeah.
not replace them.
So for all our listeners out there who are trying to figure out how to navigate, this crazy world of AI,
Yeah. Mhm.
what's the biggest takeaway?
I think it's to not be afraid to experiment and learn. Start small. Find those areas where AI can make a tangible difference
Mhm.
and build from there.
And don't forget to bring your people along with you.
Yes.
Communicate clearly. Get their input. Make sure they feel like they're part of the process.
Because in the end, AI is a reflection of the people who
Mm.
create and use it.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our deep dive into AI-powered companies. We covered a lot of ground
We
today.
did, but this is really just the beginning,
Hmm.
The future of AI is still being written, and the most exciting chapters are yet to come.
We hope this has given you some food for thought and maybe inspired you to think a little differently about the role AI can play in your work or area of interest.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And as you continue to explore the world of AI, just keep in mind those three key differences.
Strategic use
Collaboration.
and experience enhancement.
If you're feeling overwhelmed, remember, you don't have to become an AI expert overnight. It's about taking small steps, experimenting, learning as you go.
And maybe most importantly, don't underestimate the power of human connection on this journey.
Talk to your colleagues. Talk to your customers. Talk to people who've already dipped their toes into these waters. You'd be surprised at how much you can learn from sharing experiences.
Absolutely.
This is just a starting point, you know? We've given you some frameworks, some real-world examples, but the real learning happens when you start applying these ideas in your own unique context.
So to wrap things up, we want to leave you with one final question to think about. How can you leverage these principles, strategic AI, use collaboration, and experience enhancement in your work or area of interest?
Because in the end, the future of AI isn't something that's happening to us, it's something we're all creating together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
And if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by it all, you know, that
Yeah.
10% statistic we talked about, don't worry, you don't have to become an AI expert overnight.
Right.
It's about taking those small steps, experimenting and learning as you go.
And AI is constantly evolving too.
Right, absolutely. It's changing all the time. So what matters most is that willingness to kind of adapt and embrace those new ideas as they come along. Don't be afraid to kind of dive in and get your hands dirty, you know.
And maybe most importantly, don't underestimate the power of human connection in all this.
Yeah.
Talk to your colleagues, your customers, people who've already kind of dipped their toes into the AI waters. You'd be surprised how much you can learn just from sharing experiences.
Absolutely. I mean, this deep dive, it's just a starting point. We've given you some frameworks, some real-world examples, but the real learning happens when you start applying these ideas in your own unique context.
So to wrap things up, we want to leave you with one final question to think about.
Yeah.
How can you leverage these principles? Strategic AI, use collaboration, and experience enhancement in your work or area of interest.
Because ultimately, the future of AI, it's not something that's happening to us. It's something we're all creating together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.